Welcome to the MSP Corner podcast, led by our CEO, Fernando Leon, and co founder and CEO of our MSSP, Gregory Morowitz. Each week, the MSP Corner is committed to delivering critical information for the IT service firm industry. We will discuss proven strategies for marketing, attracting an audience, how to become the influencer for an industry, selling value, scaling your IT service business, and building a sustainable IT service firm. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining podcast show number 6. I am joined by my co-host, Gregory Morawitz. And today's topic is going to be, it's a very complex approach, but it can be simplified. And we're going to talk about selling value, not tech services. A lot of firms, a lot of MSPs, IT firms, VARs, they're so focused on a tactical approach with how they're going to, how their tech services is going to improve their business or their client's business or prospect's business. But it's the wrong approach. Well, I shouldn't say it's the wrong approach. There's a better approach, and it's called selling value, which is more of a more strategic approach when discussing it with CEOs. But before we start, I want to share a quick overview on our main goal at the MSP Corner. Our main objective is to help CEOs build profitable and sustainable IT service firms. We're not just providing tools for IT firms and information, but we're going to be involved in your business. We're going to be sitting in meetings with you to ensure your IT firm stays on track. And I'm going to go down the list of areas we plan to focus on. And first is, a lot of IT firms are stuck selling technology or IT services. And we want to provide you with the blueprint so you position your firm as an add value to your prospects. We're going to have framework on how to sell value so your sales process influences the prospect into selecting your firm, right? So you want to persuade them into agreeing with you that you are the ideal choice for their IT requirements. Now, I know this number is going to sound kind of high, but it's very accurate. 90% plus of businesses rely on antiquated marketing methods. And the most popular choice is relying on word of mouth. And we have proven methods on how to attract the ideal prospect. So our framework is going to include how to become the online authority and be the business influencer for an industry. So marketing is a big topic in our on our platform because we believe marketing is the most important component for your business. So be ready for a lot of information coming in that direction. Now, IT firms walk away from opportunities because they lack the bandwidth or skill set to scale. And we're lining up resources so our members can hire on-demand resources. So it allows them to scale their business on demand. And in order to deliver value, I'm going to hit on the last point. Well, it's second to last point is you got to have the right tech stack. Our platform is going to provide you with vendors that provide products that are ideal for MSPs. And the last component we're going to be providing on the platform are templates because they're so critical to when building an MSP. You need to have contracts, professional looking proposals, statements of work, collateral, and it's critical that you have these pieces in place. And we plan to have every document you need to start up your managed IT service business. But let's kick this show off. And I'm joined by my co-host, Gregory. And Gregory, today we're going to talk about selling value and why it's important to um, positioning your firm as the ideal choice for your prospects. So let me just first hit on a couple of points here on, well, several points that I want to make when selling value is your IT firm needs to take inventory as far as your expertise. So if the majority of your group or the majority of your techs and you, or let's say you, are the expert with biotech organizations or the biotech industry, you need to start building a list of references that are going to provide you with that references, because when you position your firm, you're going to want to also provide references to your prospects. And if you are going to be the expert in the biotech industry, you're going to just be marketing to biotech industry. So let's just assume you're in a meeting with a CEO and you are going to pitch him on your services. Well, you're not going to pitch him on the features of your services or the tools you implement. This is all about, this is going to be about how you have helped other biotech companies avoid disasters, how they avoid problems, how you have come in and implemented a preventative maintenance solution. Because when you're talking to CEOs, they want to know that you're going to solve their problem, right? They're meeting with you for a reason. So you need to come up with an answer as to why are you meeting? You got to ask them straight out, why are we meeting? And they're going to tell you, we're unhappy, or we're looking to augment what we have in place now, or they're growing so rapidly that they need a resource that can help guide them and build out their IT infrastructure. So depending on the answer, when you ask them as to why you're meeting with them, they're going to give you a variety of answers. So you have to be ready. You got to be ready to respond with the next question, right? Because if they tell you we're unhappy with our MSP, you got to ask them, well, why are you unhappy, right? You're not gonna ask them anything about technology or services they're getting today. You're gonna ask them, why are you unhappy? Well, they're going to give you a list of problems they're encountering. So let's say CEOs are very educated in the IT service industry. So because they've been working with, I'm sure, a handful of IT firms throughout their careers. So if their IT partner or their IT vendor or whatever MSP they have in place, they're going to probably tell you that they're not proactive, that a lot of problems could be prevented. So you got to store that information in your mind. And once they're done venting about that problem, you ask them again, you ask them another question. What else is bothering you? What other challenges are occurring within your organization? They might say, well, they're not responding as quickly as we'd like them to, right? There's no defined service level agreement in place. So they might go on about that for a couple of minutes. And the next one might be, hey, you know what? We're growing so fast, we're going to need 24/7 support. We're going to need after hours. We need to know, we need to have that, um, we need to get that enterprise level type of support where we can call in anytime and get support. So as you're having this conversation and as your prospect is venting about their challenges, their concerns, such as another concern would be, well, their expertise is not, they're not very familiar with our tools, with the applications we work with. Again, one of the main reasons you're going to go after a specific industry and why I mentioned doing an inventory as to your expertise is because you are the expert in that industry. You know everything about the biotech industry. You know their tools inside and out. You know how to avoid problems. You know what you need to implement. You can name their, you can share how familiar you are with them, but I would keep it very minimal. Now, after he's done venting about his problems, you're going to want to go down that list. And one of those problems he mentioned was that problems could be avoided. So, what are you going to respond with on that is that your organization focuses on implementing a proactive model. And what does that mean? That means that you implement solutions so they don't have problems. You want to, and you're willing to do all of the support at a fixed cost, right? Because a lot of these guys are still working time and material, but you're willing to gamble and say, look, I'm so confident in my ability and I'm so confident in my team and the tools that we implement that we're willing to do, we're willing to implement a proactive model that is going to prevent problems, and we're going to do it all at a fixed cost. So if it takes me an hour to support your environment, it's the same cost. If it takes me 1,000 hours to support it in 1 month, it's the same cost. So Mr. CEO, we're willing to take that chance to implement a solution so you don't have problems. And we're going to do it at a fixed cost. And if I lose money, oh well, that's the way, that's the gamble that we're willing to take. So as you go through this process of interviewing a CEO, you want to collect as much information as possible because it helps you position your firm because you're going to solve his problems during that conversation. And when you're selling value, you're positioning your firm as the answer to their problems, right? People have problems, you are the answer. And you're not coming up with tools that are the answer. No, tools are not the answer. You are the answer. Remember that your organization is here to solve their problems. Tools aren't. And every IT firm out there has tools, and they all provide tech support, and they have great personalities, and they're great with, they're experienced and all that. But that's not you. You're focused more on the value of the relationship. Now, one of the other, let's address another problem that he mentions, service level agreements. Well, during your conversation, you're going to be mentioning that your service level agreements obligate you to respond to problems within a certain amount of time. So the client is never guessing as to when you're going to respond, if you're going to respond. You're obligated. Your contracts state that you're obligated to respond within a certain amount of time. And if you don't, you're going to provide them with a credit, right? Because a lot of organizations leave that information out, but not your agreement. Your agreement clearly spells out not only that you're going to respond within a certain amount of time, but if you fail to, you're going to provide your client with a credit. So I would keep that conversation very short, but you want to mention it because there's value behind that. Now, Gregory, I know you're staying quiet because you're waiting for me to take a breather here, but do you have any input on, so far what I've covered? Because, you're in these meetings with me. You know how we position ourselves because we don't talk about technology. We always want to talk about us being the answer to their problem because our clients, they have challenges. They have, and like I said in the beginning, they're meeting with you for a reason. They're not meeting with you because they're happy and they're completely satisfied with their IT group. They're meeting with you because they have problems and they're unhappy. So you have to position yourself as the person that's going to make them happy and you're going to solve their problems. And that's all. That's the magic of selling value. That's pretty much it, because we never want to talk about services. Never. Technology, services, features, tools, none of that. You cannot sell that because, and let me tell you why. And I know you're holding your tongue, Greg, sorry. Let me tell you why you're not going to do that. Because every other one of your competitors are going to walk in and they're going to talk about tech services. They're going to talk about technology because they don't know how to sell value. They're going to focus on the services they provide for their clients, and that their clients are happy, and they provide help desk support, and their people are experienced. Well, that's not value. That is all tech support discussions. Now, let's discuss the industry portion real quickly and why it's going to help you close more business. So, when you position your organization, because I'm going to guarantee that your prospect is meeting with 2 or 3 other MSPs. How are you going to stand out? Well, first, you're going to stand out by selling value. The second is your references. The third is you know everything about their industry because that's your area of expertise. So when you mention to a CEO at a biotech company that, hey, we have 10 other biotech companies that are willing to give us a glowing reference, and I know what tools you have in place. I know how to, our team is very experienced. Doesn't take them hours to solve problems. It takes them minutes, right? Hey, 60 minutes is still minutes. Even if it takes them 5 minutes or whether it takes them 59 minutes, it's still minutes. So you're not being deceiving whatsoever. So, you need to share that, hey, we only work with biotech companies. That's all we do. We are the champions of the biotech industry, so we know how to support their entire environment. We know what technology to implement, and we have a lot of happy clients that are willing to talk to you. So that's one of the main reasons I focus on targeting one specific industry, becoming that champion, becoming that expert. So, and that's just you're not gonna bat 1,000. So don't expect to hit 1,000, guys. This is not a the silver bullet that's gonna get you business every time, right? Because it's it's a very competitive market, and your doppelganger might walk in, right? They sell value, they work with other biotech companies, and they might be a little bit cheaper than you. So this is going to come down to, it might come down to that, right? Where you're competing with another guy that is a mirror image of you. So the only thing that you could do is control your messaging and the references that you're going to provide, because that's what's going to make you stand out. That's what's going to make you look different. Is selling value and your glowing references. All right, so keep that in mind when you determine, I'm going to go after this industry, because going after one industry is going to be key to your success. So Gregory, you had some you're getting ready to ask me something here. What's going on?
Yeah, so you talk about selling value. What do you define as value?
So the value is in the message, right? And what I mean by that is when somebody comes to you as, let's say, a prospect, like I mentioned earlier, is they're going to give you a reason as to why they're meeting with you, right? You got to ask them, why are we meeting? They're going to give you a reason why they're meeting with you. So, and they're going to tell you why they're unhappy. And they're going to give you several reasons as to why they're unhappy. And that's when you position your firm of value. Clients are going to say, hey, we have a lot of technical problems. Well, how you counter that with value is, we're going to prevent problems from happening. Really, there's value behind clients don't want to have problems, right? They don't want to know, oh, is this another tech support firm that's going to come in here, right? You got to differentiate yourself with the value you have to offer. And what is that value? Experience, expertise, and customer service, right? So you have the experience to prevent problems from happening. You have the expertise to solve problems when they do happen, and you're going to ensure your clients are walking away happy. So the customer service experience is very important. And that's all value add. I never mentioned technology or tech services or help desk support or server support or cloud support, nothing like that. This has everything to do with the words of choice you make to solving problems, right? Because businesses they don't want to be on tech support calls. Who loves to be on tech support calls? Gosh, nobody. So you got to learn that if you're going to differentiate yourself from the competition, you have to learn how to deliver a message of value. And this is a sales process that you need to implement. And we're going to have that sales process on the MSP Corner because as MSP coaches or mentors or however you want to position us, is we want to share knowledge that will position your organization as the expert, as the industry leader, as the influencer, as the answer to the client's problem. The sales process is going to be key to winning more business, right? And but yeah, that's the short answer to what selling value is about. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, but selling value is like the new way of selling tech services, right? Managed IT services. Businesses don't want to have problems, right? Technology is going to eventually break down. Technology will have its hiccups, it'll have its little bugs, but you want to position your firm as the answer to preventing problems from happening. I'm not gonna sit here and say you're going to eliminate problems from happening. You're gonna implement solutions from a preventative maintenance type of model, right? It's like your car. If you maintain your car, if you change the oil, if you tune it up, if you check the tires, if you maintain it, if you're proactive with maintenance, the car is going to run much better. Doesn't mean it's immune to problems. It will break down, right? Because all cars have problems. But if you are proactive with your preventative maintenance plan on your car, you're going to have minimal issues. And that's the same thing with a network, right? And there's so many areas that you want to address, right? Because when you're meeting with CEOs with a firm, a small business or an enterprise level firm, you're always going to want to hear you're always going to hear about problems they have. So they might be talking about spam, right? Oh gosh, our people are inundated with spam. Hold off on answering their problem with, oh, we have a great spam filter. No, you don't want to mention the spam filter. You're going to mention the value proposition. We prevent problems from occurring. We come up with solutions to increase production. We come up with solutions to increase efficiency so your employees are working more efficient. And that will cover everything, right? From slow computers, spam, viruses, all of that. So it's not like you got to hit on each topic. So, and that's the beauty of selling value, right? You want to uh, encompass your message of solving problems with exactly that. It's like you're going to prevent problems from happening or minimize issues from occurring, because that's the entire goal of your organization, is to deliver a customer satisfaction, right? So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk on? Because geez, I hit on a lot of points here, and I want to make sure I you didn't have any other questions.
Yeah. So, um, you know, can you give me the top five value propositions? You said you mentioned a lot of them, but I'm wondering what are the top five?
So I would consider top three, not top
Top three.
five. Okay. So when you're selling value or positioning yourself as an organization that prevents problems from happening, is that right? Is because depending on how many problems or how many complaints the client has or prospect has, you're going to want to come up with a discussion or an answer to their problem. But when you're selling value, is you're positioning your firm as not only the authority, right? You're the authority with biotech in the biotech industry because you know that industry inside and out, and you have 10, 20, 30 other clients that are willing to give you a glowing reference. Even if it's a handful, it's it's something that the client will definitely put in the back of his mind and say, wow, they're working with five other biotech companies. They must know that industry very well. So that's the number one point, or number one value proposition. You are an authority in that industry. The second is your experience or your expertise is you prevent problems from happening, right? And because you know that industry so well, is you have that experience in that industry, so you know what to implement to prevent problems from happening. And when they do happen, when they do have problems, you're going to solve them quickly. It's not like you have to research the problem, call support, or call in another third party or consultant to come up with an answer. It's like, no, we know your industry so well. We are so experienced. We're going to solve that problem quickly. So that experience is very valuable, right? Because if you consider the alternative, somebody who's not experienced in your industry, that's not very valuable. That's not going to be viewed as value because you're going to wonder as a C if I was going to hire somebody to train me on sales or somebody to train me on marketing, I would want them to, I'm not going to select somebody who just started in that industry. I'm going to want to work with somebody who has first experience working in how to develop or generate, new business, how to, who can write great messaging, who has experience in my industry. I'm going to look for certain components when I meet with when I meet with a potential partner. And that's the same way with all businesses who are considering an MSP or an IT service firm, is their expertise, their experience, and they want happy customers. They want to talk to happy customers, that they want to hear about your customer service. So it's really three components that clients are going to look for, right? Your expertise, your experience, and the customer service you deliver. So that's the value you have to offer, right? Because they're not going to ask you about the tool set in the back of your car, right? Or the software that you install. That's not what this is about. This is about the the value you have to offer businesses, and that's all behind um, the experience you have or the expertise you have to prevent problems from happening. If I had to choose a doctor, right, that's going to be experienced or has the expertise of me living longer in life, right? Or choosing somebody who the only thing they talk about is my blood pressure or whatever other technical discussions you have with your doctor, your blood work, right? But if I'm talking to a doctor and he's telling me, look, this is what we're gonna do to increase your life, your standard of living. We're going to give you a longer lifespan, and they're discussing, those type of discussions, I'm going to gravitate more to that doctor than the doctor that's going over numbers of my cholesterol or heart blood or blood pressure, right? It's like that doesn't ring that to me, I just don't see any value in that. I see more value in a doctor that comes to me and says, look, we're going to come up with a strategy on how you're going to live longer and how you're going to have a better lifestyle. And that to me is more powerful than somebody who's talking to me about my numbers. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I think what we can also add to this conversation is that we've gone wrong a couple times because we don't listen to the customer.
Yep.
Sometimes the customer's idea of what value is going to be completely the opposite of what you and I think it is.
Sure. Sure.
Sometimes we go in there and we go, well, this and that and the other thing, and blah 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 blah, and we start talking about value, and they're like, well, you don't even know anything about us, right? How can you know what we hold valuable? So you got to ask them sometimes, listen to what they have to say, and and modify what you're going to produce, because we've gone a couple times where we thought we were the authority in their space, but they've turned and said, you don't listen to us, so we're not going to do business with you.
Well, when I was mentioning earlier in the conversation at the beginning, I mentioned that you have to put your prospect through a sales process. And in that sales process is you have to listen to their challenges. You have to listen to what their problems are. And you're absolutely right. You have to tailor your response to their problems, right? They might be we're going to come across organizations that, I mean, 99.999% of the time, clients are coming to us because they're unhappy with their vendor or their IT partner. And when you put them through a sales process, and if you want to position your firm as a value added partner, you have to ask them the right questions. You have to ask them, why are we meeting? What are, what problems are you encountering? Why are you unhappy? And you have to sit there and listen to what
You
they have
do.
to say. Yeah,
You
you
do. If
have
you
to.
don't, if
Yeah,
you don't, you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot.
exactly. Exactly. Now, if a client starts having, you and I have had all kinds of meetings. We've and you know what? Sometimes, and this is where listening comes comes in. You're going to we're we've met with directors of IT, and they don't want to hear about value. They want to hear about your technical experience,
Right.
right? And that's why I bring you along, because that's when you take over and you start talking about the technical experience, because that's what they want to hear. That's what that's what they find valuable, right? Directors of IT see value differently than C level and VP level executives. So let's add that as a disclaimer, is that depending on your audience, your message of value is going to be different to each audience. So it's a very good point that you brought up, is that if you are meeting with a C-level executive or a vice president, their message, their value, or their pain points are going to be much more different than a director of IT or an IT manager,
Right.
because they have different problems. They want different answers. They want to hear a completely different response. So it's that's great that you brought this up, because you're right. You have to tailor your answers to your audience. And just because I mentioned, oh, your value proposition is this, no, and I should have added that in the beginning, is your value proposition needs to be tailored to the response they give you, because you got to listen carefully. You got to listen to their problem, and you got to steer the conversation to how you are going to be that value added partner. Because yeah, just like it's a really good point that you bring up is, a director of IT is going to want a completely different response. So that's great that you brought that up. And I'm sure a lot of these guys that are listening is that they are encountering these same topics. And it's good that you brought that up. So thank
Yeah,
you.
sure.
Anything else you want to hit on, or we're going to wrap this up?
No, let's wrap it.
All right. So, well, I thanks for making time for me, and thanks to everybody for listening. And don't forget to sign up at www.mspcorner.com. All right, guys, have a good night. Talk to you later.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening. If you have not joined the MSP Corner, go to mspcorner.com.